Hi, third grade families. This is Mrs. Peters, and I teach third grade here at Maple Grove. And I wanted to create a short video to support families with something called Bridges Math Workplaces. And workplaces are a part of our math curriculum that are opportunities that kids get if we were together to do almost daily. And their activities are kind of game like, but they support fluency with skills, and in particular, at this point in the year, fluency with small numbers, which means that kids can really flexibly and fluently add and subtract small numbers, which is really important for future success. Kids that are very fluent with numbers tend to do better in math. I tell my students it's because if we can easily and fluently not only add small numbers, but also operate on bigger numbers, we can kind of save our brain power for more interesting math ideas. So, under the circumstances where we can't necessarily teach all the math workplaces, we have selected some that have been introduced. And I know for me personally in my classroom, I'm not sure I've communicated well to families that this is something that we would hope kids could be doing on kind of a regular basis. And we'll slowly add to the different activities that we're teaching. But so far, students have learned to play Make the Sum, Target 20, Subtraction Bingo, and then coming up within the next few days is Target 100. And these are all really excellent activities. Now, the nice thing is that Math Learning Center, which is the publisher of Bridges, has made the digital workplaces available to students. These haven't always been available. They don't really replace being able to play it in person with a partner with some real cards or dice or a spinner, but they're not a bad substitute. And in some ways, they're kind of fun. And so I'm going to show you a few tips on those. And then I'm also going to show you another site that you can go to that's made by our publisher that will give you an opportunity to actually kind of create the cards and play games like this, like in person, like if you actually want to have the cards instead of doing it digitally. So I want to go through and show you. Let's see if I can find the first one. So that's actually, okay, so here's the first one that we learned. It's called Make the Sum. And when you open these up, if you open the links, you're always going to be taken first to a fairly densely worded directions. And again, these are kind of meant for adults or teachers to read, but they will give you directions. And also know that these are being introduced to students in our time together. But one thing that's kind of tricky is you have to go over to the corner to go to the plain board. So this is the directions, and I don't know if you can see it up here, but when I click that button, it's going to take me to the plain board. So once you're there, then you can begin to play, and there are these kind of cool features like virtual card decks. So in this case, with this game, you have to draw enough cards to cover the entire board. And so you would just continue to fill those up. Besides having those cards, you have these other tools. So you can write equations. So you could write, 6 plus 9 equals 15, if that was your target, and say done. And then that can be slid, it can be made smaller, it can be changed colors. So it's pretty cool. And so you're actually kind of writing on a little virtual notebook. So that's one of the games that we've learned, and we actually maybe played it. I know in my class, perhaps we played it as more than some of the others. So there is Make the Sum, and then there is Target 20 was the second one we learned. And again, I just want to point out that it'll open to the directions, but you have to go over here to the corner and click on that page icon, and then it will take you to the game board. In the case of this one, kids are choosing 5 cards, and they can pull them down, and they are going to select 3 of those 5 to try and get as close to 20 as possible. And then once they choose their cards, in this example, we'd likely choose 7 and 3 and 3, which would give us 13. we can use this pen, and then we can record that. So we would have 7 and 3 and 3 would give us 13. And then our score is actually the difference between 20 and that. So that number, that sum. So that's how that game, it's a little bit difficult to, play partner games. I know personally I haven't delved into having kids do these like in a Google breakout room. But kids can also, if they don't have a partner at home, they can just kind of play both rounds. So once those cards are used, you can just discard them by using the little trash icon and then pick 3 more for the next play. So it's pretty clever, pretty nice to have this tool. If you want to start over, you can just say clear. Do you want to clear your work? Yes. So that's Target 20. That was introduced a couple of weeks ago. The most recent one we learned, and I know in my class we did not get a lot of time to practice this together. We will do it a little bit more. And I will mention to you that we started with only 3 cards, which is a variation, but it seemed like, and I'm just going to highlight that, instead of 5, it seemed like a simpler way to introduce the game. So again, here are the directions, and you have to go to that one. So in this case, if you do it with 3 cards, you are going to draw 3, and you're going to choose 2 to add, and then 1 of those to subtract. And the goal of the game, it's a bingo game, is to get 3 in a row, or maybe it's 4, I'm not sure. You could do it either one, depending on how long or short you want the game to be. But the idea is that they would say, like, you could add 10 and 5 and get 15, and then subtract 9 and get 6. And you would record that. If that's what you were going to do, you would record that over here. So again, we're just using this little digital tool and a mouse, which is a little hard. 10 plus 5 is 15, and we're going to subtract the 9, and we get a difference of 6. Now we get to cross out any place on our game board that has a difference of 6. Okay, so we would look among these cards to try and find that. I would say, I do think it's true that kids tend to need, especially in 3rd grade, some additional practice with subtraction. So I'm really happy that we introduced this game. And so this is another one that you can play. This one is a little bit easier to actually play 2-player because, let's move these out of the way. Oops. Oh, sorry, kind of mixing up here. Going to discard that and discard that and discard that. Because it does, you can see there's a board A, you can choose a different color to write, and there's a board B. So this is the 3rd one that we just learned this week. And then shortly, hopefully this week, we still have it on our plans, to teach a game called Target 100. And this is a really great game for supporting place value. And in this game, kids are going to choose 4 cards. And then with those 4 cards, they're going to try and make 2 two-digit numbers that when you add them together, that are as close to 100 as possible. I really find this to be a super fun game. It's very interesting. I think even as adults, you might enjoy playing it and see if you can, find those combinations that will get you to 100. I have had kids be extraordinarily good at finding those. And it supports that idea of place value, that if we can get to a 10 in our ones column, find a combination for 10, that 10 then extends over into the tens column and can help us get to 100. So anyway, those are the games that we've learned so far. I think the important thing, besides knowing that they're there, is remembering that, and I will, I know as a teacher, try and remind students and remind you that these are really great activities to do on a day that you're just looking for a little more work. Like I said, if we were all together, we would be doing these games like daily, and I find that it makes a really big difference for kids. The last thing I want to show you is Math Learning Center also has a Math at Home page, and there are several really fun activities. I think they're fun, that also kind of extend kids' reasoning. And so There'll be different types of things that you can do. And I honestly, it's changed since last spring, so I haven't played around with it much. But for example, I am familiar with the numbers of the day. And so you'd have a number of the day and try and find as many combinations to show that number. Anyway, it's kind of a fun thing for those of you that are looking for a little more activity in math. So anyway, so that's my sales pitch on some of the tools that are available and how you can support your child learning in math. So thanks for listening.